Yo, crew, welcome back to another episode of the Skipper Report. And this episode, I have a very special guest. And when I met him 2 years ago, I admitted to him on the chair today. It was like total fanboy. And he's a huge paddler. And when I was paddling with friends on Lake Superior who were a little older than me, they introduced me to this guest. And when I met him on, I think it was the top of the Ghoulie chair 2 years ago, and John says, "This is Gary McGuffin." And I was like, oh my God, this is Gary McGuffin? So Gary McGuffin is my guest today. So thank you. We've just come in off the last chair of Searchmont. We skied. Gary showed up like a snowboarder at crack of noon, and I was there almost first chair.
Kick the reputation up.
Yeah. And we got kicked off the hill. So we rushed down here and we're going to get this podcast done. So welcome to the Skippy Report.
Thanks, Keith. Been looking forward to it.
Right on. So, a little background. We started talking on the chair about where you grew up, and I was like, no, save the gems, save the gems for the podcast.
Well, I had this as a little kid. I can remember. You know when you have those memories before you really have a memory.
Yes.
And you go, where did that come from? And so my first experience skiing was on my dad's shoulders, and my dad grew up, and both my mom and dad grew up as farm kids.
Right.
And so the two McGuffin farms are still in our family out near Thorndale, near London. And I can remember skiing on my dad's. I wasn't skiing; I was on my dad's shoulders.
Right. Yeah.
And every so often, I would come down off these shoulders, but I would see the tips of these skis out in front because I'm looking over shoulders.
Right.
And then I'd be sitting in the snow for some reason, and then I'd hear this terrific bang, and then I'd go back up on the shoulders. But the thing, what was a little different was there was this hot poker like on the side of my face, and it was the barrel of his 22-250. He just shot something, and I mean that was one of those memories that it just all of a sudden clicks. Well, that's what it was.
Right.
And then when I'm out hunting with them on skis,
yes,
we're just skiing together.
Yeah.
But and his skis were my first Telemark skis, I guess if you want to call it that. A solid wood hickory skis made by the Peterborough Canoe Company.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you grew up just outside of Thorndale.
Yep. Yeah, London.
And through our conversation, we had like a similar upbringing of just being outdoors, doing stuff, playing with stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, we left the house early in the morning with the lunch packed and got in at supper time, that sort of stuff. So, and you mentioned about your summers up in Northern Ontario.
Yeah, a different, it was like became a different person.
Right. Totally
different setting.
Yes.
My dad built a deer hunting camp on Rabbit Lake in about 49, I think.
Right.
And so from the day I was born, that's where we went, and I would spend 3 months of every year up until I was 16.
Right.
Plying the waters of Temagami, the Nestogan,
right,
and all those great paddling routes up through Obabaca and Lady Evelyn and over to the Wanapitei River watershed,
right,
back over to the Lake Temiskaming Ottawa River watershed, and then back home. And I was doing all this like by myself.
I know, like, yeah, because
my dad, when I was 9 years old, my dad took me up to Rabbit Creek. So we drove up to Rabbit Creek with the canoe, and I put the canoe in at Rabbit Creek, and it was a day paddle with one portage.
Right.
So that was sort of my first on my own. Do the portage, and I get to the end of the portage, and there's my dad there, with his canoe.
Yeah.
And then we paddled home, and then I was fine after that because I could now at 9 I could pick up the 16-foot canoe.
Right.
And once I could get off Rabbit Lake, then I could portage through Temagami to the northeast arm of and then I was off.
Yeah. And there's going to be all these young people listening to this going, your parents did that when you were 9? Because the listeners have heard my story of backpacking when I was 10 or 11 and
Yeah.
saying to our parents, we'd like you to drop us off here.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we're going, and pick us up here in 5 days.
Yeah.
And like I was 11, and I think my friend Chris was 13,
Yes.
or we could have been 10 and
Yeah.
12. And when I told my students when I was a teacher, they're like, "What? Your parents let you do that?" It's like, yeah, that's what we did back in the day.
Yeah. No phone, just
Yeah.
yeah, that's the way to do it.
So for the listeners, this is going in a telemark paddling sort of way. And I generally don't have a show list of questions. It's like all organic. So we'll go back into telemark skiing, because you did share the story about you and Joanie working at Horseshoe Valley.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
when and where did you guys meet? Because you grew up in different parts of the province.
Okay, so we were involved in this new program offered by Seneca College at King Campus called Outdoor Recreation Technician.
Okay.
And we were actually off. We would have met a year before at Sir Sanford Fleming
Okay.
in a Fish and Wildlife program,
Right.
because that's where I thought I was headed. Joanie thought that's where she was headed. And then something twigged with her. She needed to make some money, so she worked at a gas station for a year.
Right.
And what did I do? I don't know. I just drew a blank. That's what, because this is going way. This is like the way back.
Yeah, way back. Well, in my research,
The only thing that ever kept me in school
right.
was I was, because I was handy in the bush,
Right.
and I could tap trees, and I knew stuff. I knew bird species and
Yeah.
flora, fauna. I was raised on that.
Yes.
Going to Orchard Park Public School. Once I hit grade 6, I couldn't. I mean, school just meant I didn't like school.
You were.
We had an outdoor recreation center north of I can't remember. It was on the Thames River, but they taught cross country skiing there, and they had a sugar bush operation. So from the time I was in grade 6 till the time I was in grade 13, on almost every Monday and every Friday, I would be a teacher's assistant, and I would go out to this outdoor recreation center,
Yep.
and I would teach skiing.
Yep.
And I was teaching skiing to sometimes kids older than me,
Right.
usually younger than me.
Yep.
But that's what kept me in school.
Right.
And so my grade 13 English teacher, I think, told me about this program at Seneca College. And I thought, wow, is there a place like this? He said, there's only 2 schools like this in Canada. One's in Alberta, one's at Seneca College King Campus, because he knew I wouldn't do anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
I needed something like this.
You sound like some of the boys in my class that I'd sit down with their parents, and they said they're going to go to university, and I was like, no. I see them being an arborist, and they're like, no, they're going to go to university. And this was a mom who was also an educator in my school, and Jack, what is he doing now? He's an arborist. He needed to be out there doing like school. School killed him.
Yeah,
because he had to sit still and do whatever. But yeah, and he needed to burn off all that energy and be outdoors.
Yeah, and it was it was quite the recruitment program, because I remember there was 23 positions, I think, open in the course.
Okay.
And 700 people applied.
Oh my goodness!
And so then you had to make a short list
right.
from that 700 and go in for an interview.
Wow!
And I have no idea what I said, but fortunately, Joanie and I were chosen on that short list of 120 from 700. And so that's where we met. We met at Seneca College King Campus, and we built kayaks together. We sewed all of our own ski clothes. We just made stuff.
Right.
And I was just getting to, man, there's a woman that loves everything I love to do.
Yeah.
And right after our first year, I asked her if she'd like to paddle the Missinabie River to James Bay. But it was going to require we take the first 4 weeks off the third semester of school. So I had to convince
Right.
our teaching masters that this was all part of the
Program.
the workload. Yeah, this was all.
Right.
And I had assumed over the whole course of the summer that Joanie had told her mom and dad about what her plans were
Right.
and who I was.
Yes.
That wasn't the way it came. So Joanie was teaching kayaking that year, or that summer, in Camp Camdalore, and I was running 2-week whitewater canoe trips at for this church group out of Toronto.
Okay.
I'm having to go way back.
Yeah.
Remember all this, but so I show up at Joanie's mom and dad's cottage on Lake Joseph. I got this van with a bed in the back, a big eagle on the on the front, and a canoe on the roof. And he's like, "Who's this?"
Right.
Well, Joanie and I, well, did she not tell you we're going to be spending a month together paddling the Mississinapi River to James Bay? They knew more about the Amazon River than they knew about the Mississinapi, and they didn't know who I was.
Right.
So that was pretty tense.
Yeah, I bet.
So anyway, Joan tells the story actually better than I do. She was just telling it this afternoon to somebody, and I had because I was running these whitewater trips, I had a pretty advanced first aid kit.
Right.
So I broke the first aid kit out, and I said, and I had all the maps and everything.
Yeah.
So I was able to answer all the skill testing questions.
Yeah.
And what if this happened, and what if that happened, and what if this happened?
And this is like in the day where we don't have the technology back then that we have now.
That was 79.
Yeah.
All of 79.
And like, I was just watching your expression, and I was thinking, that's like me. And when I used to teach health and relationships at school, and I told the kids, I married my best friend.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, yeah, your best friend's a guy. They like look at me. I was like, no, my wife. We have a lot of the same interests. It makes life much more exciting and enjoyable when you get to marry or hang out with a partner that, like my friends have said this year, you're a lucky guy, man, because Sean just goes along with you wherever you go skiing and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So
and it was on the Mississinapi River. I remember we finished this really cool set of rapids, and we're just kind of. And I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of the Appalachian Trail?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, I've been dreaming about walking the Appalachian Trail since I was 11 years old. I saw a cover story in National Geographic.
Yep.
My aunt gave me a subscription to National Geographic when I was a little kid. I just looked at the pictures.
You would love my
I
class.
love the pictures.
Because I didn't care what kids read. And my sister, she ran Simon & Schuster Publishing, that published all of National Geographic. And she would let me go in the warehouse and take all sorts of the different types of National Geographic magazines. Yeah. And I apologized to the girls. I said, I don't have too many girl books to read because boys are dumb and I need to get them reading. And here you go. I don't care what you're reading, but, Yeah. So, National Geographic, it's like the modern day Huck Finn adventure. Yeah. I know I haven't looked at them lately, but I know they had like the National Geographic Adventure magazine, and there was another one. Yeah, Traveler. That's it. Yeah.
So it was on that canoe trip. I asked her if she'd like to walk the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, very cool.
And she said, "Well, where is it?" And I said, "Well, it's the longest marked footpath on the planet. 2,100 miles long. It takes about 4.5-5 months to walk."
Right.
And she said she agreed.
Wow.
So that's what we wrote our last exam for that outdoor recreation technicians program. So I'd be spring of '81, and took the Amtrak down to Springer Mountain, Georgia.
Wow.
And then spent 5 months with her walking back to Mount Katahdin in Maine. And that's when we planned our lives, was what we were going to do on the Appalachian. That's when we planned the paddling trip across Canada, paddle from the Atlantic to the Beaufort Sea, and then cycle back from the Beaufort to the Pacific to the Atlantic. And we got married before we went on the canoe trip.
Yeah. So I'm just going to jump because you just threw out a whole pile of stuff there, and we don't have time to get into that. So where can people find, because you've written some books, like, and Gary is an incredible photographer, like, you know, where can people find information about your travels? And
I think if you just type in the McGuffins,
yep.
you'll find, I mean, the best place to sort of source all of this is we have a website,
Yep.
McGuffins. But because we've published 8 books,
Yep.
so Firefly has, I mean, that they sort of saturate, and Amazon, just our books alone,
Right.
you'll get, all of our books will show up.
Right.
And they can all be ordered through Amazon or even off our website if you
Yeah.
want an autographed
Right.
copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's lots of, you'll have fun. You won't, and you'll actually probably see some Telemark pictures.
Well, that's
in the images if you Google our
yeah.
names.
See, like I didn't know that Joanie was a Telemark skier until you put that photo of her up in the powder, and she's on. When I looked carefully, somebody made a comment. I said, I think she's in leather boots and straight skis in that photo.
She's on Europa 99s.
Yep.
Aluminum edges. We bought those skis from, like, one of our ski instructors, Stan Telesnik, was sponsored by Europa, or no, that was by Fisher.
Okay.
And so he said, "You guys want some skis?" So I mean, it was like they're $100 back then,
Right.
And I don't know where Joanie got the money. Maybe I lent it to her, but anyways, that's where we got our first Europa 99 that we still ski on.
Oh,
today.
nice.
And our best boot, excuse me, at the time we were skiing on Alpha's leather boots with sort of a fuzzy lining.
Okay.
Had no torsional rigidity at all, but we were getting better performance out of an Adidas nylon racing boot, 38 millimeter.
Wow.
And the trick with that was they had this little wedge and the back of the heel.
Yep.
And when you clicked into that wedge, you could really crank the turn better than you could on the Europas. So that's what we were skiing on.
So when you were talking about, is it that little device that came up at the back of the ski that this wedge went in?
That was Voile. Voile
okay.
came out with that.
Okay.
That because that was the next thing we went to.
Right.
Was that plate.
Yeah.
It was a plastic plate that flexed.
Right.
And it dropped down into a little
channel or
little V.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is going way back.
Yeah, that is way back.
So that was so we paddled around Lake Superior.
Yep.
And
So you circumnavigated it?
yes, by canoe, because that was our second book called Superior Journeys on an Inland Sea.
Yep.
And then what we wanted to do was we wanted to ski sections of that coastline. We weren't going to ski all the way around.
Yeah, I know.
We couldn't have because it was just open water. In
Yeah,
places.
exactly.
So we just went to various. So after having paddled around it, we thought, what would it be like to ski here?
Right.
And when we came around this point from Marquette, we looked at this. We couldn't tell what it was. It was about 5 miles away. But what it was these sand dunes that were about 300 feet high, dropping right into Lake Superior.
Oh, wow.
So we went back there because, wow, wouldn't that be cool to ski down that in the wintertime?
Yeah.
Like right down into Lake Superior off the
Yeah.
tops of these bald hills.
Yeah.
So that's where I made that image of beautiful
Oh, wow.
morning.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was powder ski. I mean, you don't need.
Yes.
I mean, it's just swoosh.
Well, that was like
swoosh.
after our interview with N yesterday. He talked about, or maybe it was during this couloir out in the back of their, it's not their property, but
he's got a land use permit on Crown.
And it's like, he says it's like 400 feet long and cliffs on either side packed with ice, and the snow just billows into there.
Yes.
And who would think that we'd have that in Ontario?
Yeah, and when we first moved here, we met Ann and Robin on Telemark skis,
Right.
and we were skiing on those Europa 99s and Karoo XCD GTs,
Right. Yep.
you get down, your back foot would actually pass your downhill.
Yes.
You'd be trying to unwind halfway down.
Yep.
But that was all we needed for powder. It was just
Yeah.
woo, woo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that's really cool. And when you were talking
So that's
about
what she was skiing on.
okay, yeah, I wish she was here. I tried to encourage her. She goes, no. Gary's better. But yeah, so that's kind of your Telemark story, and then you evolve with all the new modern equipment and that sort of stuff. There's a great photo that was also on your Facebook page. Somebody from Searchmont took a photo
Carol
view.
Stubinski, yes.
Yeah,
we get out on nice days, and we have our spots, and I try and
that's a
throw
a
few
great
carbs
photo.
in there, and
Yeah,
she enjoys that.
yeah.
'Cause
So
we just have a good time.
yeah, well, that's whatever you can get and take photos and create the memories, and
So one thing we have in common are Scotty Bobs.
that's right.
So that was my first carving.
Oh, really?
Carving ski, and that's when I went to plastic.
Okay. Yep.
What was I using? I think hammerheads.
Yes.
I think I had the hammerheads mounted on the Scotty Bobs, and I still got that whole setup.
Yep.
And I'll ski those Scotty Bobs with the hammerheads and some T2s.
Yep.
T2s, and they're all it's all in good shape.
Yeah, I have.
If I want to humble myself, I just go back out on those.
Yeah.
On a day like today, I go, oh, okay.
You know what? People bitch, complain, downplay, whatever about the older equipment. I was skiing on Bumblebees, and Rossi T4 Telemark skis with a Rotafella Cobra binding. And then I got into the Bomber Bishop, which I put on the Scotty Bobs, and I put on some other skis because I have the second ski plates.
Yeah.
And I come from a Nordic background, just like you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never skied downhill in leather boots. So I was able to track down leather boots and straight skis and put on some 3-pin bindings or some older cable bindings like Chili's and that sort of stuff. And kind of de-evolve my skiing. And it really humbles you because I learned that you can't carve those things. I always say when I would try to carve them, the ski would chatter and it was like driving on a flat tire. You just couldn't do anything. And I had a lesson when I used to teach. I teach on modern equipment. And if you hear noises in the background, we have avalanches coming off the roof of Richard's cabin. Anyway, and then the next lesson was in plastic or in leather boots because I'd given a lesson to a gentleman and he had only ever skied on leather boots and straight skis, and he wanted to try the more modern equipment. And after the lesson, he goes, "Yeah, I like these, but can we do leather boots next week? Can I bring them?" And I said, "If I can bring mine."
Yeah.
And you go from one lesson, and we're carving, and then 10 minutes later, you strap on leather boots, and it's very humbling.
Yeah.
To go from one to the other rather quickly.
My first leather boots were Castinger double boots.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And I was using those more on like ski expeditions.
Right. Yes.
With 2 sets of liners.
Right.
Like a dry liner out.
Yes.
In the tent and in my sleeping bag, and then we were but for and then I got this sweet deal with I was actually a sponsored ski athlete by Kazama.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
and remember the Kazama line?
Yes.
And
a friend of mine still has a pair of brand new Kazama skis.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Like that was like it was a Japanese family-owned
I don't know.
business. And then the boot company we ski with.
Right.
So I had my leather boots, a single boot, and double boots after I blew out the Castingers.
Right.
So I skied with those, I think, and we were using Rainy Superloop bindings at the time.
Yep.
I know Ann and I would go out in the back country and like we'd be shearing off those little tiny bolts because we have the same sort of style. Our skis are really close together.
Yep.
So we're always shearing off stuff. And those were the days.
Yeah.
But then when the plastic came out, I mean, I just, and usually is the first conversion. Like he'll go
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
And then I'll go, okay, if it's good for N, I can.
I thought it was interesting because I got a phone call from N, and then he started asking me about the new boots, and I was like, N's calling me and asking me about the new boots. And I stay away. I wait a few years.
Well, me too. I just
got to work out the bugs.
I'll bet you they're going to have a comp version.
Yeah.
That's what my boots will never wear out. I'll have to make some excuse to get the comp at some point.
Yeah. See, those boots that I'm on, those yellow
Yes.
comps, I have another brand new pair of those.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And I don't like the new color combination. So Scarpa, you need to like up your game with the black and the reddish and the black and the white. The black and the white reminds me of those wasps. What's that?
That's what magic markers.
Oh, I let my granddaughter adorn them. My boots are now covered with these gem sort of stick-on things. She goes, "Pops, can I put some of these on your boots?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, do that."
I mean, they wrap cars with decals.
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
Get boot wrap.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get a cheetah thing like most.
Leopard skin.
That's right. So, telemark skiing now paddling. So you circumnavigated Lake Superior. That's something I always wanted to do with my paddling partners, but they grew older as we were talking on the chair and more comfortable in their almost pre-retirement lifestyle. And there are a lot of Canadians these days who are exploring more of Canada. And I'm always telling people, you need to go to Lake Superior. You need to drive around Lake Superior. You need to get out on the water on our Great Lakes, because I was on Porphyry Island. Yeah, we had that was our first stop, and I'd never seen sort of the Spanish moss, like lichens growing. I was like, I didn't know that grew here. And then some of the flora on some of the islands, I was like, this almost looks like stuff that you see in Newfoundland. You know, it's incredible in that archipelago.
The species, that's
and we're really not anywhere near subarctic, but it's just the water.
We have caribou on the North Shore.
Yeah, exactly.
Caribou, Slate Islands.
Like right here, I was telling John, he didn't know what that antler was over there. And I said, it's either elk or caribou. And he said, well, there's no caribou around here, is it? Yeah. And I was like, well, there's the Slate Islands where the caribou are there, woodland caribou, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And
so
there's nothing like paddling.
No.
With a small herd of caribou as they go from one island to another.
Oh,
that is cool. I mean, that's just like being on the George River or up on, in Alaska.
Right.
Paddling the Chukchi Sea to those, and it's you can drive to Terrace Bay.
Yeah.
And then it's a 7-mile paddle to the Slates across.
Yeah.
And you're there. You're
exactly
caribou.
Yeah. And it's like the same story of Anne finishing skiing at night at Larder Lake and skiing across the lake home. And the wolves are running with them because they're curious.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, really? Northern life is way different than what. Yeah. You get all these experiences that nobody else has.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I remember talking to people, and we share stories about paddling in Lake Superior, and they're talking about animals, and I was like, yeah, we got attacked by an animal one time. It was the only time. It was a mouse. We were sitting there eating, and my paddling partner, this little mouse came up, jumped up on his chest, and jumped off, and that was it. I did wake up one night. There was a rather large animal sniffing on the other side of the wall of the tent, but that whatever millimeter of nylon, it sure provides a lot of protection. I just kind of rolled over and went to bed, back to sleep. I don't know what it was. Nothing too major.
So there's another lake, Nipigon.
Yes.
It's 60 miles long and about 35 miles. So we spent most of a summer with Sela when she was 4, and so we circumnavigated Lake Nipigon.
Oh, cool.
And that is like It's like what Lake Superior must have been 100 years ago.
Oh, really?
We paddled 25 days without seeing another person.
Wow.
That's how
Remote.
remote it is. And
when you look at a map, it's not that remote. Like
no, you can. There's three places you can drive into the lake, but still, that's not many.
No.
And all those are on the south side.
Wow.
So it's and with Ann and the Wolves, I can remember one morning there was a lot. It was windy and wavy, and we came out to this one around this headland onto this beach, and 2 young wolf cubs were playing, and they didn't see us, and then they just kind of started walking down the beach, and we were literally right beside them in the canoe as they were frolicking around on the beach until they got to the very end of it. And Sela's just sitting there. You know, she could have reached out. But so just to have that positive experience and see these wolves, these 2 pups, play around, and we watched them for about 5 minutes I'm sure the parents were in the woods just freaking out, going, come on, like, get in.
Yeah.
And the 2 young pups were just playing around, but that's and the beaches are just like highways of tracks, caribou tracks, moose tracks, wolf. Just if anyone wants to, that's a beautiful place to paddle.
Oh, I have a neighbor who loves to paddle, and he's been coming up here a little bit, and so I'm going to tell him that he needs to go to Lake Nipigon.
Lake Nipigon, yeah.
When you were talking about the wolf cubs, I remember. So Sean has a camp just east or north of Thunder Bay on Silver Beach, and there's an island, a very small island. It's just rock. And it's a ways out there, and I've always wanted to paddle out there. So we're on paddle boards right now. So she had to fly home to do a wedding, so I paddled out there. It's just full of seagulls and stuff. On the way back, there are these 2 loons, and so I'm paddling towards them, and I'm getting low on my paddle board, and I lay down on the paddle board, and I'm drifting towards them, and all of a sudden they both disappear. And then there's a seagull that comes in. There's a dead fish. And then all of a sudden, there's this torpedo that comes from my side. It's a bald eagle. Wow. Just swoops in like an instant before that seagull got there. And I got pictures.
Wow.
And Sean goes, "Oh, you did that when I wasn't there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I arranged all that, right?" Like, it's being on the water and being silent. You can. You know, when you're hiking in the bush, you're making noise and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
But being on the water, like when we paddled Lake Superior, some of the sights that we saw is because we were so quiet on the water. You just stop paddling and drift.
Yeah. It's good to listen more than talk.
And this is the point, because we talk a lot about Lake Superior, and I mentioned to somebody, or maybe Woody had mentioned somebody that I was interviewing you, and they called you the King of Superior. I thought that was good because we're talking about land conservation and that sort of stuff. So maybe you can tell the listeners what you're doing now with the lands around Lake Superior.
Certainly, so when we paddled across Canada, one of our favorite sections was the North Shore of Lake Superior. And we had 10 days of excellent weather. So we paddled from the Soo to Grand Portage over 500 miles in 10 days. And so it was
You went west?
Yeah, we were heading west. Okay. It was kind of a blur, but it was just so much that we saw. I remember going at Gargantua.
Yes.
There's 20 islands out there.
Yes.
And I remember looking in, we were paddling on the outside of those islands, looking in at this beach, which was called Warp Bay. And I thought, man, if you ever needed to be somewhere for the rest of your life, it would be at Warp Bay. It was just like, it's just amazing. And so after we paddled across Canada, we published Where Rivers Run, and that did really well. And the publisher said, well, we want another book with photographs in it. So I said, well, can it be about anything? It just has to be. And they said, yeah. And I said, well, we would like to do a book about about Lake Superior, but it'll be an adventure story about paddling around the circumference of the lake. So that's what launched us into the Lake Superior journey.
Right.
but then knowing there was going to be a book at the end of it. And that's kind of what set us on our course of doing expeditions and writing books about them. But along the way, because when you do a book, like, people all of a sudden they think you're the expert or
Right.
you know it all. So I remember we got a call from the federal government out of Thunder Bay, and they said to us, if you could, they explained what a national marine conservation area was all, what these things were. And I said, yeah. And he said, so if you could choose any place in the Great Lakes, where would it be? And I said, I would go from Thunder Bay,
Yep.
all the way to Marathon, take in the whole archipelago of islands.
Yes.
And he said, well, so if we did that, could we use your book to sell that, like,
right.
to the bureaucrats? And,
yep.
and I said, yeah. And I mean, I create a national freshwater national marine conservation area. And that's kind of what got us on to, now we had some sort of credibility with the federal government. So
right.
we could suggest other places like national park. And then we transferred that to working with the Ontario government on provincial park status.
Right.
So I don't even remember the Lands for Life process. That's what led us into the ancient forest journey we did.
Yes.
We paddled from Temagami all the way back over here.
Yep.
And we were, for ourselves, we were discovering all these islands of old growth red and white pine.
Right.
So we did that. And out of that, I mean, that's a whole other story. We could go on about how that's a great story, but 378 new parks were created. And many of those were places that we brought to the attention of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry now, but to the public. And we did all that through a canoe trip.
Yep.
And we took along a satellite phone, a deep space satellite phone, Apple's fastest laptop, and the first Kodak Canon combination SLR digital camera. And we got sponsors from Canon and Bell and Apple, and so we were able to tell the public this is back in '97. We developed an ancient forest website. We were out in front of World Wildlife Fund Canada.
Right.
The Wildland. They didn't even have websites yet, so it was great because we were developing this website. Went to Nissan.
Yep.
Nissan with their brand new Pathfinder model, and they used the theme of our ancient forest journey, which was all about preserving habitat and these old growth forests across northern Ontario. And so that was the splash page for the release of the new Nissan Pathfinder.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, they just loved it because they had this whole theme.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was great. So, that's a short story.
Yeah.
But very significant for us when it came to looking at identifying wild places. And so moving here from Temagami back in '91, this was just after we paddled around Lake Superior. There was so much you could do with the federal government and the provincial government in terms of treaty land spaces that you could help protect or suggest to be protected or champion.
Right.
But then there was also a lot of significant privately held land or patented land.
Right.
And that's when Joanie and I decided we needed to create a nature conservancy specifically for the Lake Superior watershed. So it became, it was really the first binational, Canada and the U.S. nature conservancy that was like not-for-profit.
Yep.
So we could use American funding to purchase Canadian property, Canadian funding to purchase American property. So that's what we've been able to look at patented land and turn that back into basically public land, or what we call treaty land.
Okay.
And land back.
Right.
So it's a sort of when a story comes. So when I talk about those 20 islands
Yes.
that we paddled by at Gargantua,
Yes.
I remember the Bob Elliott, who was the acting superintendent of Lake Superior Provincial Park, calls me up and he says, "Hey, Gar, you know what? You know our Devil's Warehouse that they called at the time? We don't own that. 3 American families just came to us and said, we own all of the islands."
What?
We thought they were part of the park. And he says, "Is there anything you can do about it?" And I said, "Well, we don't have like that much money to buy them." But long story short, 4 years later, we created a partnership with American Friends of Canadian Conservation. And we went to the 3 families and convinced them from a monetary standpoint, it was better for them to donate the 20 islands to the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy, which we had just founded,
Right.
rather than putting them on the open market and creating cottage lots on all of those
Right.
islands. So that Warp Bay that I
Yep.
paddled by in '83, 20 years later, were threatened to be privatized and developed. We were through the
Yep.
invention of the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy, we were able to
Wow.
protect those islands.
So
in
I'm
perpetuity.
just trying to figure out if I can remember correctly from my first trip. We went through Devil's Warehouse. It is, and I can't remember because I was just new on the water. The other guys had paddled that area before and stuff. And this thing called Devil's Chair sticks
Yes.
in. Okay. I
That's
thought
it.
that was the cool. Okay, so
Yes.
that's the area.
All those islands. Yeah.
Okay.
Right around into Indian Harbor.
Yes.
North
Yeah,
all
yeah,
those
yeah.
Islands as
Oh,
well.
okay.
Yes. So that was, to me,
It's
if that's all we ever did,
yeah,
that was
significant. Yeah.
But we've got lots of, including a new 168. Since we're right here,
Yeah.
just downstream from here, I think I can probably tell you.
And we're on the Gooley River.
Yeah, so on the Gooley River,
Yeah.
we just had a family come to us that own 2 kilometers of shoreline, and they want to donate
On the Gooley River?
on the Gooley River,
Okay.
and they want to donate that property to the
And
Lake Superior
are they
Watershed.
closer to Lake Superior or are they
Yes,
inland?
yes, yeah, they're actually very close to Ann and Robin's place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Like I love we had conversations with what my friend is doing
Yes.
down in the Muskokas,
Mm-hmm.
but he's able to do it,
Yes. Yeah.
fund it and that
Well,
sort of stuff.
So at a point when I was 17, I remember I was destined to play pro hockey, and I was going to go to Cornell University on a scholarship.
Okay, yep.
I mean, so I was right. New York was close.
Yep.
All that stuff, and I had all my ski gear and winter paddles, everything in one corner of my bedroom, and I had all my hockey equipment in the other.
Yep.
And I knew I had to make that choice.
How old were you again?
17.
17, okay.
My last year of high school.
Yeah.
And then I was going to go to Cornell, and there was just too much to gamble to play hockey.
Yeah.
And once you get to that certain stage, it's not as much fun anymore. As
Right.
when you're a little kid playing. There's
Yeah.
so much at stake.
Yes.
And my parents backed me on that. I mean, and fortunately they did, because I can still telemark ski. I don't know if I played hockey as hard as I played
Right.
then, whether I could
Right.
even ski now.
Right.
And the other thing, I don't think I could have ever made enough money as a hockey player
Right.
to be able to do what I've done as the founding member of the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy in terms of purchasing land.
Right.
We've been able to save land through
Yeah.
donations and all other processes. Having an organization behind what your dream is much easier than just trying to go out on your own and do it yourself.
So if listeners want to get involved, how can they get involved? Who should they contact?
LSWC, just that acronym will get you to the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy.
Okay.
We're also, there's the Ontario Land Trust Alliance, so we're a member of the Ontario Land Trust Alliance. We have Land Trust Alliance of Canada.
Yep.
So there, if you just Google our names
Yep.
and conservation, and you'll get the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy.
All right. That's cool. And you know what? There's a lot of stories, and I've had a couple of guests come back, and when I come back up here next time,
Yeah.
I'll bring my gear and we'll do this again and we'll elaborate, because I always tell guests I try to keep this to about an hour.
Yeah.
And Gary's left friends at the bar at the ski hill because they're going out for supper there, and I don't want to hold them up. So I want to thank you for, coming and doing this. It was kind of impromptu, but not impromptu.
Because I haven't told these stories for
that's what I love. That's what I love.
This is going way back.
Yeah. That's the stories, as we said on the chair.
Yeah.
It's all about the stories and where it goes, and this has been fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I'll have some. I'll tell you how that property goes on the Gully River if it comes to fruition.
That's awesome.
About what we're doing there.
Well, thanks again. Thanks very much for doing this, Gary.
That, Keith.
Well, there you have it, crew. Another episode of the Skippy Report. And a gigantic thank you to Gary McGuffin for joining me after a great afternoon of skiing at Searchmont to do this interview. And like I said during the episode, this is like total fanboy. This predates my Telemark skiing experience when I would paddle on Lake Superior. And my more senior paddling partners introduced me to the McGuffins. Anyways, so if you're looking for them, firstly, you can find their website, themcguffins.ca, on the good old interweb. Both Joanie and Gary have Facebook presence, as well as the Conservancy, so the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy. The Conservancy also has its own website, Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy.org. And Gary's on Instagram, Gary McGuffin Photography. So if you're wanting to get involved and look up what they're doing, I'd highly encourage you to reach out to one of those resources I just listed and get in touch with Gary and Joanie. Anyways, a gigantic thank you. This is only the first. Gary's got so many stories. When I'm back up in Searchmont, I'll be bringing my equipment up so that we can continue this conversation. So again, thank you for listening to the Skippy Report. And thank you, Gary, for doing this.